Good day from the International Space Station Flight Control Room here at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, where at this hour the Orbit 2 team of flight controllers is on duty, ready for a second attempt to work with their colleagues at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov outside Moscow, and with European Space Agency flight controllers at the Automated Transfer Vehicle Control Center in Toulouse, France, to undock the Eduardo Amaldi automated transfer vehicle, the cargo ship that arrived at the International Space Station back on March 28th. An initial attempt back on Tuesday was unsuccessful. The attempt to undock Eduardo Amaldi was aborted just a few minutes before the scheduled opening of the hooks because of a problem with the proximity communications equipment, basically the computer in the Zvezda service module of the Russian segment of the International Space Station that talks to the computers on the automated transfer vehicle itself. As it turned out, Russian flight controllers psyched out that problem very quickly and identified that a spacecraft ID, basically an algorithm that is supposed to be loaded into the Zvezda control module computers, was containing the incorrect spacecraft ID. That problem has since been corrected. Earlier today, Russian flight controllers confirmed that the proper spacecraft ID was in fact located and loaded into the proximity communications equipment computer. A successful talkback was conducted between the Zvezda service module computers and the automated transfer vehicle computers. As a result, the command was given about 4.5 hours ago by Russian flight controllers to open up the hooks on the International Space Station side of the docking interface between the ATV, as it is known, and the aft port of the Zvezda service module, to which it has been linked since March 28th. We are expecting just about 5.5 minutes from now for the commands to be sent to electrically demerge the connection between the automated transfer vehicle and the aft port of the Zvezda service module. That will be followed about 5.5 minutes later by the command that will be sent from the Russian flight control team in Korolyov to begin the procedure to open the hooks holding the ATV on the ATV side of the docking interface between it and the Zvezda service module. We are expecting physical separation between the two vehicles to occur at 4:46 and 22 seconds p.m. Central Time this afternoon. About 1 minute after the physical separation occurs, basically springs on either side of the docking interface pushing off against one another to enable Eduardo Amaldi to break free of the aft port of the Zvezda service module. About 1 minute later, the ATV engines will fire for 5 minutes and 31 seconds to change the velocity of the cargo craft by 4 meters per second and create an opening rate that by next Tuesday will find the Eduardo Amaldi some 4,500 miles in front of the International Space Station for the first of 2 deorbit burns that will enable Eduardo Amaldi, as you see in this animated depiction, to begin the plunge back into the Earth's atmosphere, where its butterfly-like solar arrays will begin to break up, as will the rest of the ATV loaded with trash, to plummet harmlessly over the Pacific Ocean for its demise. The automated transfer vehicle, at the time it is undocked just a few minutes from now, will have spent 184 days docked to the aft port of the International Space Station's Russian segment. It has been used to reboost the station several times during its stay on orbit. It was launched on March 23rd from the Arianespace European Space Agency launch site at Kourou, French Guiana, atop an Ariane 5 launch vehicle, and 5 days later, again automatically docked to the aft port of the Zvezda service module to begin its stay on the International Space Station. So a belated departure on tap for the Eduardo Amaldi just a few minutes from now. Earlier today, the 3 crew members on board the International Space Station, Expedition 33 Commander Sonny Williams, Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency Flight Engineer Aki Hoshide, and Russian veteran cosmonaut Yuri Malenchenko, who is at the controls of this laptop computer for the proximity communications equipment commanding on the Zvezda service module with the assistance residents of Hoshide this afternoon. This trio took about a 3-hour nap earlier this afternoon, woke up at mid-afternoon to begin preparations to bid farewell to the Eduardo Amaldi. The next automated transfer vehicle to be launched to the International Space Station will be called the Albert Einstein. It is scheduled to be launched next spring from Kourou, French Guiana, for its delivery mission to the International Space Station, as was the case with this flight of Eduardo Amaldi, delivering about 7 tons of food and supplies and fuel for the residents on board the orbital laboratory.
Okay, so it's less than 10 minutes before the bus demerging. So we don't have TV image anymore. So we will stand by for your report.
Flight controllers at the ATV Control Center in Toulouse. You're seeing a live picture from that control center. That is different than the European Space Agency's Columbus Control Center that is located in Oberpfaffenhofen, just outside of Munich in Germany, that daily interfaces with the flight control team here in Houston to report on the operation of activities and experiments in the European module that's attached to the U.S. segment of the International Space Station. This ATV Control Center is employed strictly for the time frame that the automated transfer vehicle is en route and in orbit to the station. Its docked time frame with the station, and as of today, it's anticipated undocking from the station through its planned deorbit next Tuesday. Again, there'll be 2 deorbit burns next Tuesday to send the ATV plummeting back into the Earth's atmosphere, where it will burn up harmlessly over the Pacific Ocean. The only cargo craft that returns to Earth intact is the SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft. The next one of those scheduled to be launched on Sunday night, October 7th, a week from Sunday night, at 8:35 p.m. Eastern Time from Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station on its own delivery mission of science experiments in the first commercial resupply mission to the International Space Station following its successful demonstration flight back in May. Dragon, if it launches on the evening of October 7th from the Cape, will be grappled and berthed to the Earth-facing port of the Harmony module of the International Space Station on Wednesday, October 10th. All quiet here in the International Space Station Flight Control Room. Again, the team of flight controllers on duty at this hour, led by Flight Director Jerry Jason, who is in the middle of the row of 3 that you see. To his left, at the bottom of the screen, is Flight Director Tony Sakachi, and to Jason's right is spacecraft communicator Jack Fisher, who will be talking, if required, to the space station crew throughout the course of today's undocking operations and the departure of Eduardo Amaldi from the vicinity of the International Space Station.
Please proceed to step number 7.
Laptop command test, okay. Copy.
The Russian and ATV control centers talking to one another, confirming that we have a demerging, as they call it, of the electrical bus between the automated transfer vehicle and the Zvezda service module, so everything proceeding on track for the sending of commands by the Russian flight control team to open up the hooks on the ATV side of the docking interface between it and the Zvezda service module. That command is expected about 4 minutes from now. It will take about 3 minutes for those hooks to fully open, after which the separation command will be issued, enabling springs on both sides of the docking interface to push off against one another and allowing Eduardo Amaldi to begin backing away from the aft port of Zvezda. The International Space Station and the automated transfer vehicle flying 255 statute miles above the Earth over the southeastern portion of the Black Sea, moving from southwest to northeast in an orbit inclined 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator. We should be acquiring television from the International Space Station's Russian segment over Russian ground stations just a few minutes from now, as the station passes within range of a series of Russian ground stations that are stretched throughout Russia and the Asian continent. The International Space Station is about to be placed in free drift, all thrusters about to be disabled to prevent any perturbations imposed on the undocking sequence for the automated transfer vehicle. Once the ISS is confirmed to be in free drift, then Flight Director Jerry Jason here in the International Space Station Flight Control Room will give the ATV and Russian flight control teams a go for undocking.
Moscow station, Sudan mode is free drift.
And Jason has now given the go for undocking. That will be relayed up to Yuri Malenchenko aboard the Zvezda service module, again assisted at the Proximity Communications Equipment Computer Station by Aki Hoshide. Expedition 33 Commander Sonny Williams is busy with photographic and video documentation of this process. And as we stand by for the initiation of hooks opening about a minute and a half from now, we're beginning to receive, as you can see, television from a camera on the Eduardo Amaldi automated transfer vehicle of the docking target at the aft port of the Zvezda service module, to which Eduardo Amaldi will separate just about 4 minutes from now.
Yuri, Moscow. Moscow station, you call?
And the mechanical systems officer here in Mission Control confirms that the hooks are now driving open on the ATV side of the docking interface, so everything proceeding on schedule.
Copy.
We expect physical separation less than 3.5 minutes from now.
So please control PC and also laptop. The hooks of ATV, what color is this indication?
F8_3 prepared.
The International Space Station now flying over western Kazakhstan, just north of the launch site for Soyuz and Progress vehicles at the Baikonur Cosmodrome.
Is nominal. Say again. Oh, all the indicators are nominal. Now copy. Copy. Yes, correct. Please prepare the procedure. I've already reported that the procedure is ready.
Physical separation.
And physical separation confirmed a bit earlier than planned. No issue there. Undocking occurring at 4:44 p.m. Central Time as the International Space Station and the automated transfer vehicle flew 255 miles over western Kazakhstan.
Procedure F8_3 execute.
Go to wide angle, please. done.
Принято.
Copy.
Eduardo Amaldi bidding arrivederci to the International Space Station after a stay of 184 days, 3 days behind schedule. But today everything has worked to perfection as the automated transfer vehicle separates from the aft port of the Zvezda service module. This view from a camera on the aft port of the Zvezda service module looking back at Eduardo Amaldi. You can tell from the insect-like shape of the solar arrays on the cargo craft. Again, undocking occurring at 4:44 p.m. Central Time over western Kazakhstan.
Moscow station. MSU is in the mode ready.
Vehicle mode.
Vehicle mode is inaudible.
Принято.
Copy.
The International Space Station's thrusters have been re-enabled.
Принято.
Copy.
The ATV now beginning its departure maneuver. Over the course of the next several days, the automated transfer vehicle will separate at an ever-increasing rate from the International Space Station to a
Vehicle mode.
Vehicle mode separation.
Принято.
Copy.
to a distance ultimately of about 4,500 miles in front of the International Space Station for a series of deorbit burns next Tuesday afternoon that will enable the ATV to begin its plunge back into the Earth's atmosphere.
Наблюдаем.
We are observing
We can see Sudan mode.
Sudan mode.
Vehicle mode, SOX low. Принято.
Copy.
And the visiting vehicle officer here in Mission Control confirms through telemetry and through confirmation from the flight control team in Toulouse, France, that the departure maneuver burn of 5 minutes and 31 seconds in duration has begun. You can see, or you had a view and you see again, the automated transfer vehicle at the bottom of your screen, having undocked about 4 minutes ago from the aft port of the Zvezda service module. Loaded with some 7 tons of food, fuel, and supplies for the residents of the International Space Station, Eduardo Amaldi was launched on March 23rd from the European Space Agency's launch site at Kourou, French Guiana, atop an Ariane 5 rocket. A 5-day rendezvous ensued, with docking occurring automatically to the aft port of Zvezda back on March 28th. We are expecting to acquire downlink television from the U.S. segment of the International Space Station through our tracking and data relay satellite system just a few seconds from now. A very good view of the ATV from the camera on the aft port of the Zvezda service module as Eduardo Amaldi begins to fade away from view. We're hoping to get some downlink television from external cameras. And there now we have a view of the automated transfer vehicle as it backs away from the aft port. Prominent in the field of view on the left side of your screen is the ISS Progress 48 cargo craft that arrived at the International Space Station a couple of months ago to deliver supplies that is docked to the Piers docking compartment. There is a Soyuz vehicle also attached to the International Space Station, which is the ticket home for Sonny Williams, Aki Hoshide, and Soyuz Commander Yuri Malenchenko, who are scheduled to return to Earth on November 12th. A busy traffic pattern emerging, as always, at the International Space Station. Today's departure of the automated transfer vehicle. Soon to follow, a week from Sunday night, the scheduled launch of the SpaceX Dragon commercial resupply vehicle from Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station atop the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket, which, if all goes as planned, will be grappled and berthed by Hoshide and Sonny Williams on October 10th and berthed to the Earth-facing port of the Harmony module of the International Space Station. 2 weeks after that, the scheduled launch of the next trio of residents to the International Space Station that will join Expedition 33, that being Soyuz Commander Oleg Novitsky, Flight Engineer Evgeny Tarelkin, and NASA Flight Engineer Kevin Ford. And within days after they docked to the station on October 25th, just a few days later, the next launch of a Russian Progress resupply vehicle, the Progress 49 cargo ship from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. Like a bird in flight, Eduardo Amaldi continues to separate from the International Space Station's Zvezda service module. In contrast to the aborted undocking that occurred back on Tuesday, everything went by the book today, with all of the commanding having been completed, and all of the timelined activities to prepare for the undocking of the automated transfer vehicle moving along in smooth fashion. The visiting vehicle officer now reports that the departure maneuver burn by the ATV has been completed on schedule. Everything looking good, as an opening rate of about 4 meters per second ensues to enable Eduardo Amaldi to depart the neighborhood of the International Space Station for several days of transit to a point some 4,500 statute miles in front of the station, where it will be next Tuesday for a pair of deorbit burns of its engines that will send Eduardo Amaldi into its final plunge back into the Earth's atmosphere and a reentry breakup over the Pacific Ocean. That breakup, by the way, will be documented by special recorders that will send back data in a very novel fashion so that flight controllers can understand better the characteristics of a vehicle's breakup into the Earth's atmosphere for spacecraft design of the future. As mentioned earlier, the next launch of a European Space Agency automated transfer vehicle is scheduled next spring in the April timeframe from Kourou, French Guiana. That will be the Albert Einstein spacecraft, the fourth in the series of automated transfer vehicles designed to bring the largest volume of supplies up to the International Space Station of any of the existing cargo craft. And now a very clear view of the automated transfer vehicle as the International Space Station and Eduardo Amaldi fly into an orbital sunrise over South Korea. Now moving from northwest to southeast at an altitude of some 255 miles above the Earth.
Юрий Иванович.
Yuri, go ahead.
Можно сделать заключительную операцию.
You have a go
341.
for closeout steps per radiogram 0341. Copy.
Юрий Иванович, просьба...
Yuri, we're actually asking you to stand by. Please do not perform closeout operations. Right now, copy. Copy all, standing by.
Speaking to Russian flight controllers on another loop, the flight director at the Automated Transfer Vehicles Control Center in Toulouse, France, reports that the ATV now has departed what is known as the approach ellipsoid. This is essentially a circular boundary that represents the vicinity or the neighborhood of the International Space Station, within which all proximity operations are conducted. So the ATV now flies at an ever-increasing velocity away from the International Space Station. Now passing to the south of Osaka, Japan. This is Mission Control Houston. A good view of the automated transfer vehicle as it passes ever further away from the orbital laboratory following its undocking at 4:44 p.m. Central Time today. Flying 255 miles over the western Pacific Ocean, moving from northwest to southeast. The automated transfer vehicle performed flawlessly today, as did all of the proximity communications equipment on the Russian segment of the International Space Station. The aft port of the complex is now open and free. That aft port to which Eduardo Amaldi had been attached for 184 days will next see the arrival of the next visiting vehicle that will attach to that aft port of Zvezda, that being the ISS-49 Progress cargo ship that is scheduled for launch on October 31st from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The Expedition 33 crew, Commander Sonny Williams of NASA, and flight engineers Aki Hoshide from the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency and Yuri Malenchenko from the Russian Federal Space Agency will begin an 8.5-hour sleep period. About 4 hours from now, they'll wake up at about 5:30 Central Time on Saturday morning for a weekend of routine maintenance work and some off-duty time before they press back into a full complement of experiments and preparations and training, onboard training activities for the SpaceX Dragon arrival that is scheduled for October 10th, assuming a launch from the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station on Sunday night, October 7th.
Copy. In work.
Russian flight controllers confirming that Malenchenko has deactivated the proximity communications equipment. It is no longer needed for this operation as Eduardo Amaldi continues to separate from the International Space Station. Again, this separation rate will continue throughout the course of the weekend, and Monday, next Tuesday, Eduardo Amaldi will find itself some 4,500 miles in front of the International Space Station, at which time a pair of deorbit firings of its main engines at 4:42 p.m. Central Time on Tuesday, and a second deorbit maneuver at 7:44 p.m. Central Time next Tuesday evening will enable Eduardo Amaldi to slow down enough to drop out of orbit for its high-speed re-entry back into the Earth's atmosphere, where it will break up harmlessly over the Pacific Ocean.
Thank you for your great work and your great support today. Always appreciate it. Thank you, Yuri, and I wish you goodbye. Thank you. Goodbye. Goodbye and thank you.
Russian flight controllers in the wee hours of Saturday morning Moscow time wishing a good evening and goodbye to Yuri Malenchenko as they go home for the evening. Their job done now.
We'll be standing by. Should you need us, call us. Sergey. Per radiogram 0373, we need to report to you on step 4. That is on condition of the rubber rings, so everything is fine, everything is intact.
You will have it, the photos on the OCA machine, and the name of the file will be the same as the radiogram. So everything is good from this end. Okay, copy all. Thank you.
The Eduardo Amaldi activities from this point on through the weekend into its deorbit next Tuesday now solely in the hands of the flight control team at Toulouse, France, at the Automated Transfer Vehicle Control Center. Ballistics officers here in Mission Control in Houston will continue to monitor the departure of the Eduardo Amaldi through the time of its deorbit burn, as it does with every visiting vehicle until its job is complete.
Экипаж МКС ЦУПа Москвы в канале СГ-1 для Юрия.
ISS Moscow on SG-1 for Yuri. Go ahead, this is ISS.
Юрий Иванович, в вашем лице
Yuri,
Тулузу также поздравляю.
MCC Toulouse is also congratulating you with a very successful undocking and wish you all the best as well. To the whole crew. And on behalf of the International Space Station crew, we would like to congratulate you all on the ground and thank you for your excellent work and great support today. Thank you.
Congratulations relayed to Yuri Malenchenko and his crewmates, Sonny Williams and Aki Hoshide, aboard the International Space Station from the Russian flight control team, relaying the best wishes and congratulations from the Automated Transfer Vehicle Control Team and Toulouse, France, on a job well done. The second time was a charm today, as the first attempt on Tuesday ran into some technical glitch issues with computer commanding. Those issues quickly resolved. The new undocking date set by the station program management on Wednesday, and today everything went smooth as silk as the automated transfer vehicle, the Eduardo Amaldi, separated from the aft port of the Zvezda service module at 4:44 p.m. Central Time, 5:44 p.m. Eastern Time. Just a few minutes later, conducted an engine firing and a separation maneuver that will see Eduardo Amaldi move to a position about 4,500 miles in front of the International Space Station for a series of deorbit burns of its main engines on Tuesday, enabling the automated transfer vehicle to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere and break up harmlessly over the Pacific Ocean. With that, we're going to wrap up our coverage with one programming reminder as we watch the automated transfer vehicle fade from view. All of the activities of the Expedition 33 crew aboard the International Space Station will be recapitulated, and all of the new activities on tap for Monday will be brought into your view on Monday morning with our ISS Update Commentary Hour, which airs at 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time on NASA television. Again, Eduardo Amaldi, free of the International Space Station, heading for its demise over the Pacific Ocean next Tuesday in a flawless operation today to enable Eduardo Amaldi, the automated transfer vehicle, to separate from the International Space Station. Until ISS Update on Monday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, we bid you a great weekend. This is Mission Control Houston.